Have you ever had that feeling you're in two conversations at once? You know, the one with the words you're actually saying, and then there's the other one with everything you're not saying? Well, spoiler alert, you totally are. And today, we're going to pull back that curtain and see how our brains perform this incredible magic trick every single day.
Okay, so let's just dive right in with what looks like a super simple, everyday chat. Person A asks, "Want to get coffee?" And person B replies, "It would keep me awake all night." Now, on the surface, that's just a statement about caffeine, a biological fact. But you and I both know that's not what's really being said, right? So that's our big puzzle for this explainer. What is the intended message? And how in the world are our brains so lightning fast, so good at figuring out that hidden no thank you, without anyone actually having to say it? Well, it turns out there are these different layers to how we communicate, and we're going to peel them back one by one. All right, so first up, we have to start with the most basic layer of all, the literal, face value meaning of the words themselves. This is the bedrock of communication. It's the part that's pretty much impossible to argue with. In the world of linguistics, they call this the proposition. It's a bit of a technical term, but all it means is the core statement of fact in a sentence. It's the objective, undeniable piece of info being presented. So, in our coffee example, the proposition from person B is just this. Coffee would cause me to remain awake all night. It's a fact about what might happen. That's it. And you can see exactly how this works right here. Different sentences can have the exact same factual core, the same proposition. John gave Mary a book means the same thing factually as Mary was given a book by John. Same event. But look at the other side. Isabel loves Tony is a completely different reality, a totally different proposition from Tony loves Isabel. One does not equal the other. So this is that literal foundation we're building on. Okay, so now that we have our foundation, let's get to the juicy part, the next layer. Because no sentence ever just floats in a void, right? Every time we speak, we're packing in a whole bunch of hidden assumptions, stuff we just take for granted that the person we're talking to already knows. So you might be wondering, how do you actually spot one of these hidden assumptions or presuppositions in the wild? Well, there's this brilliant little trick called the negation test. A presupposition is the part of the meaning that survives, that sticks around, even when you make the whole sentence negative. For instance, let's say I tell you, my sister's going to change jobs. Okay? There are two really clear assumptions baked into that sentence. One, that I actually have a sister, and two, that she has a job right now. Simple enough? But now, watch what happens when I flip it around. My sister's not going to change jobs. The main point has completely changed, but those assumptions? They're still there. I still have a sister, and she still has a job. They survived the negation test. See? That's how you know they're presuppositions. And we do this stuff all the time without even thinking about it. We make these existential presuppositions. Like, if I mention the King of Sweden, I'm just assuming you and I agree that he exists. Then you've got factive ones. Saying someone regretted telling the truth just assumes they actually told the truth. And we even do it with the structure of our questions. Just by asking, "Where did you buy the bike?" I'm presupposing you bought a bike to begin with. Okay, now we're getting to the real magic. The deepest and honestly, the most fascinating layer, where the true art of conversation happens. This is all about what we mean, not just what we say. It's the art of reading between the lines. The fancy term for this is implicature. But really, all it is the extra meaning that you, the listener, figure out based on the context of the chat. It's the gap between the literal words and the intended message, and our brains are constantly and brilliantly working to bridge that gap. Here is a perfect classic example. If person A says, "I hope you brought the bread and the cheese," and you come back with, "Ah, I brought the bread," what did you just communicate? You never said a single word about the cheese, right? But person A immediately knows you didn't bring it. That unspoken message right there, that's the implicature. So how do our brains do this so reliably? Well, it's because we all, unconsciously, agree to follow 4 basic, unspoken rules in conversation. Think of them as the rules of the road for talking. 1. Be honest. 2. Give just enough info, not too much or too little. 3. Stay on topic. And 4. Be clear. It's when someone seems to break one of these rules that our brains automatically start searching for the hidden meaning, for that implicature. All right, team. We've got our tools, we know about propositions, presuppositions, and implicatures. So let's head back to our original mystery and blow this case wide open. Okay, back to the scene of the crime. Person A asks about coffee. Person B comes back with a comment about their sleep. Now we can actually map out exactly what our brain is doing here.
And here's the play-by-play of what your brain does in less than a second. First, there's the proposition, the literal fact, coffee would keep me awake. Okay, simple. Then, your brain processes the presupposition, that unspoken background knowledge. This person is affected by caffeine. And that leads us to the grand finale, the implicator. We know people are supposed to stay on topic. So this comment must be relevant. And the only way it's relevant is if it's the reason for saying no thank you. Boom. Mystery solved.
And here's why this is so cool and so important. We do this insane level of analysis thousands of times a day without even breaking a sweat. But when you consciously get what's happening, when you can see the literal, the assumed, and the implied, man, it changes things. It makes you a sharper listener, a more effective, and a more empathetic communicator. In a tense negotiation or just a tough conversation with family, hearing what isn't being said can make all the difference.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time a friend pauses, looks you over, and says, "That's an interesting haircut," what's really going on there? Which of those unspoken rules are they bending, and what hidden meaning are they practically begging you to find? Once you start looking, you'll see these hidden layers absolutely everywhere.